Hey, hey. If you're on YouTube, hit a comment in the chat and let me know that you're here. Haven't done a YouTube live in a long time. I'm also live in the school community, and let me join that call. So if you're in the community or if you're watching on YouTube and you want to join the community, there is a link in the description of this live stream. Let me just look and see if we are good to go. Just going to put the community down here. And what do I do to refresh the page, I guess? I don't know. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a live stream, so give me a second. Oh, nobody in the community could hear me because my microphone was not turned on. Hopefully you guys on the chat can hear me. Okay, it looks like we are live, so I guess we're good. This OBS chat thing keeps jumping around. So I guess I should just not play with it. Yeah, looks like we are live over there. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna keep the chat here on OBS somewhere. It says I've got to sign in, so I'm just trying to get that sorted out. Google's introduced passkeys now, and so that created an issue a little while ago, so it wasn't giving me the option to sign in for the chat, so not sure what that's about. But I think I can use the control room here, and that should work. So maybe I don't need the one on OBS. Okay, fine. So if you're watching this in the community, welcome. Thank you for being here. We are now 300 and somewhat members. Let me open the community here so you guys can see it on YouTube. All right, so we've got this live Q&A going on right now. And so if you are on school, you will be able to see this this community here, which is basically Growth Circle. And the goal of this community is to learn how to launch and scale Facebook ads, as you can see. And so today in this particular video, what I wanted to cover for this live stream, what I wanted to cover was how to actually make sales online. And I'm going to be covering a couple of things really, really quickly. This is supposed to be a Q&A. So obviously, if you have any questions, I am monitoring the community chat as well. So if there are any questions, I will get to them. But I wanted to do a little training because I think this will be useful as a YouTube video as well. So hopefully we can run through this fairly quickly, and I hope I come across clearly. But how do you make sales online? And really, there's just four main steps. Four main steps to making any kind of money online with any type of business. No matter what type of business you have, whether you have a law firm or you have a community like I do, or you have anything, like literally any type of business that you can think of. When it comes to doing business online, there are these four steps. So let's go through these four steps. The first step is you need to get traffic, right? You need to find a way to get people to see what you have. You need to get traffic. And a lot of people are doing this, right? They're doing things like trying to grow their following. They're trying to grow their views. They're trying to get more views. They're trying to get more subscribers. They're trying to get more eyeballs. Essentially, people are trying to go viral. And then if you want to make any money, if you want to make any real money, you've got to have an offer. Now, you don't make traffic first and then send to an offer or make the offer after you get traffic, because that's kind of the wrong way of doing it. If you have an offer, like I would suggest you have an offer first, then you get traffic, and then you figure it out. Then you've got to deliver. Once you've sold some stuff, you've got to deliver to these people, because once these people have bought the thing, you have to deliver. So let's say you have a Shopify store, you are selling ladies fashion, and I've done this for a couple of different brands already. Now you have to make the product if you're selling on pre-order, and you got to deliver the product. Or if you're in drop shipping, you find products that are winners, you drive traffic to the store, you have to get those things delivered, right? Now drop shipping is easy pretty much for delivery, because delivery is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And so that's what you've got to do. Then the way to grow the business is to get reviews. And the reason why reviews is so important, and this is not the topic of the video, but the reason reviews is so important is because you want people to leave a good review. You want people to say good things about your business. You want people to say good things about your brand, about the products that they've bought, because when more people say good things about your stuff, then they generate more traffic, you sell more stuff, you deliver that stuff, and you get more reviews. And so this is a continuous cycle. It should be a circle, and it's an evergreen circle. What this is called in my mind is a growth loop. Okay, this is what I'm calling it, the growth loop. And so the thing that I want to focus on is traffic, and I'll tell you why. So when I started my business something like 12 years ago, I learned this online thing. I was like, okay, we need to have an offer. And at that time I was doing sort of affiliate type stuff. And I was like, okay, I have a product. And the main goal of that business, it was an MLM, it was a long time ago, but the main goal of that business was to generate traffic, generate sales. And that's what they focused on. It's just like, how do you get traffic? Right? And so if I go back to the screen, there are mainly 4 ways to get traffic. You get organic traffic through social media, right? You run ads, you do cold outreach, meaning you're telling people about the stuff that you have and getting people to buy it, or you're doing referrals or affiliates. And so the story goes that I was in an affiliate deal, and we had the product, we had the technology, we had all the stuff by the owners of the groups, and we had to all we had to do was just drive traffic. We had the landing pages, we had all of this stuff, like a typical MLM style business back then. That's what we learned. And I looked at this model and I was like, okay, if we have a good product, then there's really not much more to do but to get traffic. And so I put all of my energy into traffic, and I worked on social. I tried to do cold outreach. I did a bunch of content. Obviously, we're still working on content. Content is an ever-growing machine, ever-growing thing that we need to always be doing. And so I was like, hey, let me try to work out ads. And so I learned how to do advertising. I learned how, like back then, it was the wild, wild west. Facebook ads was super new. There were no real rules. We could pretty much promote anything. And once they started seeing, people making basically fake claims and scamming people, I was one of those people, but Meta was like, okay, they have to have restrictions on certain types of products. Gambling became illegal. But there was a whole bunch of stuff that they decided that they were going to ban or make it really difficult for people to advertise or for people to promote using ads. Organically, you can talk about pretty much whatever you want to, as long as you're safe and you're promoting good stuff. But on advertising, it's even more critical. Okay, so I figured out how to run ads. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to master this ads thing because I believed that ads was going to help me in a way, not only to find clients for myself, because that was my product. I was going to run ads for people because I had run ads on my own. I generated leads and I had made a few sales at that point. And so I was like, okay, let me run ads. And so that's what I want to talk about in this video, because ads, if you really think about it, ads is traffic. If I can spell it correctly. Ads equals traffic. Now, when it comes to advertising, there are obviously a bunch of different things that we can do from an ads point of view, right? And when I say ads, I'm talking specifically meta ads, which is Instagram and Facebook. And so if I say Facebook ads or if I say meta ads, I'm talking about both. Okay, so meta ads and Facebook ads. Now, when it comes to the actual ads manager, obviously there's a whole bunch of different things that we can talk about. There's a whole set of rules. There's a whole set of things. That's not for this video. What I want to talk about today is traffic, because when you send traffic to an offer, the thing that most people are obsessing about, which is this bit in the middle, right? And I'll change the color of the arrow, because this bit in the middle, where are my color tools? Right? This bit in the middle is what people obsess about when it comes to conversion rates. Okay? That's the bit in the middle. And the bit in the middle is useful. It's important. Yes, you need to have your numbers. You need to measure. Obviously, you need to know what your conversion rates are. But once you know what your conversion rate is, it's kind of not that important. Not in my opinion, because the majority of people are not driving enough traffic for their conversion rate to actually be optimized. I'll say that one more time. Most people are not driving enough traffic to optimize for conversions. And I say this because I worked on a bunch of different campaigns in my career so far. The fashion brand that I spoke about before, she had, I wouldn't say a ton of traffic, but only when we turned on ads did we actually get a whole bunch more traffic. And actually the cold traffic that we were driving from ads were converting higher than what her organic traffic was converting at. And I didn't really bother with the conversion rate. I didn't really pay any attention to the conversion rate because the conversion rate was literally 3%, 3.1 or 3.2. It used to fluctuate, but 3.1%. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to focus on the conversion rate. What I need to do is capture the attention that she's already got. And so that's where I focused my efforts. And so what I did was I looked at where can we get the traffic from? And so I looked at the traffic sources from ads, from meta ads. And I looked at a couple of different places. Existing audience, right? So people that were already on Instagram following her, people already watching videos that were already engaged, people that were commenting, people that were DMing. We can target all of these people on Meta, right? Then I looked at emails. So, and these were all customers. She did not have a opt-in thing at all. So these were all customers. Then I looked at, I spoke about views. I spoke about the people that are following. I spoke about the existing customers. Then I looked at people that had visited the page and gone deeper into the page. So add to cart. Basically, those are the 4 levels. And so I said, okay, well, for people who visited the page, once we installed the pixel, we allowed that data to collect with Meta. And then I literally ran a campaign specifically for page visits. And I ran a separate campaign testing for add to cart. Now, add to cart obviously was a lot lower volume, but those were the 4 different audiences that I targeted. And once we sort of capped out, we sent all the emails to all the customers, we caught up on all the page visits from the history that we had, and we exhausted the add to cart audience. I turned these off, right? So these were turned off. And then I, focused on the existing audience because her audience was growing. And so anybody who was an existing audience, maybe somebody who followed, or maybe somebody who liked, or maybe somebody who commented, they would then see our ads. Now, coming back to why is traffic more important over conversion rates? The thing is, if you do any sort of business online and you're trying to make money, you are in the traffic business because you need thousands and thousands of visitors to visit your website or your landing page. You need an ample store of traffic. Like, I'm talking like 50, 100,000 visitors a month to a page to be able to make decent money. When I say decent money, my ratio, and I don't have a name for this yet, but what's a good ratio of traffic, in my opinion, is $1 for every 1 visit. So basically, I'm aiming always to try to get $1 from every visitor. No matter what the traffic source is, this is blended across the entire business. Sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen, so let me go back there. So I wrote this down. What is a good ratio of traffic? $1 to 1 visit. And so if you want to make $1,000, you got to have 1,000 visitors. If you want to make $10,000, then you need 10,000 visitors. Now, obviously, every business is different, and some businesses get $1 for every 3 visits. Maybe they get $1 for every 5 visits. That's like worst case scenario. Best case scenario, maybe you get $2 for every visit. Maybe you get $5 for every visit. Whatever the case may be, but 1 to 1 is what I tend to work on. And I'm not sure why the screen keeps on flipping back. I think it's because I'm using the numbers and I have a shortcut key on OBS. Okay, so 1 to 1 is what we're aiming at. And so if you want to make any kind of money, right? Think about it. If you want to make $1 million a year, we're talking about $83,000 a month, right? And OBS is going to switch back again. Sorry if that's annoying. All right, so we're trying to go for $1 million a year. You need $83,000 a month, which translates to 83,000 visitors, tours per month. Now, if you spend money on advertising to get those visitors, if you're paying, let's call it $2 per click or $2 per landing page view, then you're probably going to be paying something like 166,000, I believe that is. Right, whatever that is, 83 times 83, $166,000 for that traffic. Right? And then you're going to be making 83,000 a month. Now, anybody who's in their right mind will look at that math and say, oh, I'm not going to spend $166,000 to make $83,000 a month. And so this is why advertising is important, because we can get more traffic. Now that the goal of this, if this is your numbers, and I've obviously worked myself into a corner, but if you're paying $2 a click, then you need to get cheaper traffic, or you need to increase the amount of clicks, the click rate, so you get more clicks over to your page, or you need to change your offer in such a way that it generates more money for you. Now, I've done sort of business. I've worked with people like Brendan Burchard. I worked with a bunch of clients that have huge businesses. And I'm here to tell you that when it comes to driving traffic to an offer, you need huge amounts of volume. Like, these numbers are proven in my eyes. Okay. Hopefully you're paying cheaper than $2 a click. $2 a click is expensive. Ideally, you want to be paying $1 per visit so that you can make your $1 back. Right? Now, obviously, we're aiming for higher than that because that's what makes sense. But yeah, ideally, you want to be making, getting your traffic cheap or cheap enough, or having an offer big enough on the back end that you're actually making a lot of money. All that to say, traffic is the number one thing. Obviously, you need to work on an offer. Alex Hormozi wrote a book. He wrote multiple books, and there's a reason why he wrote these books in this way, in this order. He's a pretty smart guy. He wrote offers first, then leads, then money models. Right? He worked on the offer first, and most of you have an offer already. If you don't have an offer, then build an offer, because then you can generate leads, and usually the leads would come from ads or cold outreach or referrals or content, organic. There's only 4 ways, like I said earlier, right? And if you need to work on your money model, then you need to obviously work on your money model. Figure out what's the best way to deliver, figure out what's the best way to get referrals, figure out what's the best model to actually increase these, get the conversions, get the leads, get the offer sorted. But there's a reason why he wrote those books in this order. He's probably got a 4th one coming out. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but yeah, he's the GOAT, and I would listen to what he has to say over and above what I have to say. But advertising, in my mind, is the main thing that everybody needs to work on, because conversions are not going to come through. If you have a conversion rate already, then that is your main source of truth. That is the thing that I think you need to be focused on once you have a conversion rate already. Cool. So I also wanted to look at a couple of questions. Obviously, if you have any questions on YouTube, drop it in the chat and I'll get back to you. If you have any questions in the community inside Growth Circle, drop it below this video as well, and we will answer those. I'm now looking for my Q&A sheet. I have so many windows open. Live streaming. School Live. I think I might have closed that window. Or I'm in the wrong. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple of rapid fire questions here now. And I'm also going to record these as shorts. So, okay, this was a question I got from a client, right? How do we figure out which hook or headline actually works before building the whole funnel? Well, this was proven by Tim Ferriss. This is where I learned this method. is when he was coming up with the name of the 4-Hour Work Week, what he did was he ran Google ads. He wrote headlines, put them in Google ads. I don't know where he sent the traffic. It's immaterial. It's not important. But what he did was he figured out what the best click-through rate was on which title, and that was the title that he chose. Alex Hormozi did the same thing when he wrote money models, when he wrote leads, when he wrote offers. When he was trying to figure out what the cover of the book should say, he literally did Instagram stories with polls and asked people which title they liked best. And he did that a few times, and that's what came out. That was how he figured out what the title and of all of these books should be. So how do we figure out which hook or headline actually works? You can run content, so you can put out videos, shorts, put that out and see what people say. You can put out ads on Google or even on Meta. You just do a normal post, image post that has the headline on it with some text on the ad and figure out what's the best click-through rate. Like super, super simple. That's how you know. Once you have that, then you can build out the rest of the funnel. Next question, should we chase what platforms? Nope, that's not a proper question. Okay, here's another one. Do AI generated ad visuals still work, or has the market gotten wise to them? Okay, so this question comes from stuff that I've seen while working with Brendon Burchard, but also stuff that I've seen working on my own ads. Is AI generated video or AI generated images, especially sort of before, maybe a few months ago, used to they used to burn out really quickly. Like they used to fatigue really quickly, and you needed to refresh the campaigns often to feed the algorithm. This is because of the Andromeda update, where Meta just, it's not really Meta. I think the audience is just sort of aware of slop out there, and so they sort of tune out to the AI stuff. But AI has gotten pretty good where, even if you make a mock-up using AI, maybe you use Google Nano Banana or ChatGPT or something like that, then you put into Canva and you edit and you replace some of the fuzzy looking AI looking stuff with real photos of yourself. That works. I find that a blended version has worked for me, and they do have a little bit more of a shelf life. Here's another question. Why does Meta keep showing my old ad instead of new creatives I just made? Okay, so here's the example is you made some new ads, you have old ads that are running, that are converting, and you want to test new things. Now, test in that sentence is the most important piece, because an ad that was working in the past that keeps on working is the control ad in Meta's eyes. That's the one that keeps on bringing business. That's the one that keeps getting the action. And so any new creative that you put in to test has got to beat that creative. Then only Meta will shift the budget over to the new one. So if your ads are not getting any spend, then they're just not good enough for the algorithm. They're just not good enough for the audience. So make better ads, essentially, is the story for that one. This question is specifically for any type of brand that does any clothing, and maybe even for UGC, right? Is it worth hiring models or talent for sales and ad content? If you're hiring somebody who has a record of making sales, and who's, if you're in the fashion industry and that's your demographic that you're going after, then definitely, right? UGC has been around for a long, long time, even before the internet was invented. So hiring a model or hiring talent is always going to work. There's a reason why it does work. Even it could be influencers, right? Michael Jordan is probably one of the best influencers or most commonly known influencers that has ever existed. There's obviously others, names that the people continue hiring models, hiring famous people to promote. This is always going to be a thing. So the answer to this is yes, provided they bring in sales. That's the part that's important. If they bring in sales, you keep hiring them. If you hire somebody and they don't bring any sales, don't hire them again, hire somebody else. Find another person that'll make sales for you. Here's another question here. My checkout works, but I can't tell if the pixel is actually tracking sales. What's the fix? Well, there is a quick and easy way to see if your ads are actually working. And so I can actually share my screen. I need to find my ad account, but I can share my screen and actually show you where to go in your account. Okay, so I'm going to plop this window here and then go to share screen. Okay, so I have my ads manager up. There's a couple of campaigns running, but the way to see if your ads are actually working is if you go to Events Manager. Okay, so on my pixel, I'm here in Events Manager. I go to the pixel here and I literally go over to the bottom over here where I see event activities. So we've got page view, we've got complete registrations, we've got submit application, and it shows sort of what's going on, where it's getting traffic from, what integration. So if you see the events here and you got these spikes, right? That's telling me that there's traffic coming and Meta is registering. So yeah, there's a couple of updates or whatever going on that I need to take a look at, but that's how you know. You go to the Events Manager and you look. You see whether there's actual activity. Next question: Why do our reported sales look inflated? Okay, so when you have sales that are inflated, maybe, you know, sometimes Events Manager doesn't record properly. Sometimes your Metapixel in your Ads Manager will report over or under. This is a common thing, right? People are using ad blockers. They're using, you know, websites. They're using browsers that don't track events. Sometimes they've turned tracking off on maybe their iPhone, whatever the case may be. And so what happens is Meta is not able to see the tracking, not able to see the events that are coming through. Now, what CAPI is supposed to do, Conversion Pixel, the Conversion API, what it's supposed to do is to actually overcome that, but it doesn't always do that. And so what you've got to do is look at your sales numbers, your actual save numbers, whether it's in Stripe or whatever platform you're using to collect money, and then compare the number of sales over the same time period to your Ads Manager and see whether you're over or under. If you're over, most likely, especially if you're over by double, you are double counting your conversions. Or if you're under, then under by maybe 10, 20, 30%, then there's definitely a leak somewhere in terms of the data and in terms of Meta not seeing your data. So that's something that I would look at, but you need maybe somebody who's familiar with ads to look at your account to know what's actually going on there. This is one of the most common questions that I get, and it's around getting traffic and clicks, but zero sales. And the question was more about where's the actual bottleneck. Now, this comes back to what I was talking about earlier. And I'm going to go split screen again, and I'm going to talk about this. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that you have your offer. Where is it? You get traffic, you have an offer, you're delivering, and you're getting reviews. Now, when you're making an offer, there's obviously a landing page and there's a couple of steps in between, right? If you have a Shopify store, then you most probably have your product page, then add to cart, then initiate checkout, which is the checkout page, and then your purchase. And so at any step here, there's going to be a drop off. There's going to be people that are going to fall off between product page to the account, to the add to cart, to the initial checkout, to the purchase. Now, usually what I would see as a good conversion rate between add to cart and initiate checkout is 50%, and between initiate checkout and purchase at 50%. Meaning that if you get 1,000 people in your let's say you get 500 people adding to cart, it means at least 250 people should get to checkout, which means 125 should get to purchase, right? So, but the ratio here from product page to add to cart could be a lot less. It might be 10%, it might be, I don't know, 25%, it might even be 50%. I'm sorry for the screen switching, right? So perhaps it's between 10 and 50%. So you've got to figure out what those numbers are in your dashboard, in your Shopify dashboard, and see what that is. So the only way that you can answer this question about getting traffic and clicks but no sales is we got to look at your funnel, and we got to see how far down the process it is until you get a purchase. Let's say you have a different type of funnel, and a lot of coaches are running this type of funnel where they have, let's say, a webinar opt-in page. Then they have, the actual webinar. Then they have from that webinar a sales page or maybe an order page, and only then do people reach, order page where they reach the purchase, where they're going to check out. Order page, hopefully with the checkout on it as well, and then the thank you page, right? So maybe this is where the purchase happens. So again, it's like, okay, we're getting traffic, right? So we're getting clicks from ads, and so that the ad traffic is coming here. And so when we're trying to measure, okay, we want purchases, then it's like, well, there's 3 steps to this process. So what are your numbers in between? And usually, like I said earlier, once you have a decent sort of conversion rate on your webinar from your order page, or people buying from the webinar, then you just get more people on the webinar, because then you can literally make more money. So that's a little bit more of a complex question, but I hopefully that covers it. Okay, so I've covered quite a lot here, and I wanted to wrap up with the summary. So what is the summary? You need to get traffic to sell something, then you deliver that thing and you get reviews from that thing. And the way to get traffic is organic ads, cold outreach, referrals, or email or affiliates. And the main thing when it comes to traffic is just getting more traffic. You need to make, or at least in my opinion, you need to make at least $1 per every visitor. That's a good ratio, a good benchmark to look at. And if you want to make $10,000 a month, generally you want to send 10,000 people. Now again, that depends on your offer pricing, and depends on what your funnel looks like, all of those things. But generally on a low ticket, right? Low ticket meaning under $100, under $200, this is going to be what your ratio is going to be. But for high ticket, your ratio is probably going to be 1 to 10, $10 for every one visit. So I would say, and it could be even 100 times the traffic you're getting, depending on what your funnel looks like. So that's the summary. Again, if you have any questions in the community, drop them in. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the community. The link is in the description. It's called Growth Circle. It's free. I host it free, and I teach ads, and I teach this funnel stuff in there. And if you're wanting to learn how to run ads, you're wanting to learn how to convert better, we talk about all of those things inside there. I do help with offers, and I help with landing pages as well. So do come check me out. And if you enjoyed this video, like it, subscribe, ask your questions, and we'll chat soon. Thank you so much. Bye.